All, or I should say most, full committees have subcommittees. And these subcommittees have a more specialized jurisdiction. I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. Um, some things I want to clear out of the way before I get to that. Only members of the full committee can be on the subcommittees, right? And the subcommittees, members of the full committee can serve on multiple subcommittees at the same time. But everybody on the subcommittee has to be a member of the full committee. So what do I mean by a more specialized jurisdiction? Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Going back to the web page for the United States Senate Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry, once again, if you held your cursor over about, one of the things on the menu that would appear would be this list of subcommittees. And so you can see down below, there are actually 5 subcommittees associated with the Agricultural, Nutrition, and Forestry Committee. So when all the members meet together, they're the full committee, right? But then there are these 5 committees that have a more specialized focus. So for example, there's a subcommittee on commodities, risk management, and trade. There's a subcommittee on rural development and energy. There's a subcommittee on conservation, climate, forestry, and natural resources. A subcommittee on food and nutrition, specialty crops, organics, and research. And then finally, a subcommittee on livestock, dairy, poultry, local food systems, and food and safety and security. So each one of these focuses on some of the issues under the jurisdiction of the full committee. And so I'm going to give you a sort of idea of the way it works, but it doesn't, this is like what's the phrase they use? This is a dramatization. This isn't how it actually works. If you recall, when I showed you that list of issues that fall under the jurisdiction of the Agriculture and Nutrition Committee, there were 17 of them. So the way it would work, keeping in mind that this is a dramatization, is it might be that the subcommittee on commodities, risk, and management handles issues 1 through 4, right? And you can see where I put the 1 through 4 next to them. And then it might be that the subcommittee on rural development and energy, they deal with issues 5 through 7. And then the next committee might deal with issues 8 through 11. The next committee might deal with issues 12 through 14. And then the next committee might deal with issues 15 through 17. So all of the subcommittees together look at individual issues within the full jurisdiction of the committee. It's just they focus on just a few of them. And so a member of the Senate might serve on 2 subcommittees, right? Because there are fewer members in the subcommittee than the full committee. And so that's how they divide up the work. So the way it typically works is when a bill is being proposed, actually it will start in the subcommittee. So later on, I'm going to be talking about a bill that I'm going to call Phil's Corn Law, for lack of a more creative example. And we're going to pretend that I'm a member of the Congress, I represent Nebraska, and I want to pass a bill that has to do with corn. I'm sorry, I couldn't come up with a better example. In any case, the way it would work is if that bill was going to be proposed, it would probably wind up in one of these subcommittees. So I'm just taking a look. Let's just assume, for the sake of discussion, that the first committee that's going to hear Phil's Corn Law is going to be the subcommittee on food, nutrition, specialty crops, organics, and research. Okay, that might not be right, but we'll just go with that. The way it would work is after I wrote my bill, I would submit it to the Senate Majority Leader. We'll talk about this later. It would wind up in that subcommittee. We would debate the bill, If it got majority support, it would move to the full committee. It would be debated again and discussed and maybe modified. We'll talk about that more when we talk about how a bill becomes a law. And if it passed the full committee, then it would go to the floor, right? That's when all the senators would vote on it, right? So you have the overall jurisdiction of the Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry Committee, those 17 issues. And then you have these 5 committees that focus on more specialized jurisdiction. They each take a portion of the 17 issues and they just focus on that. So that's the way it works in both the Senate and in the House. I'm just showing you the web page for the Senate, but the same thing would be true in the House. Now you might be asking yourself, why is Congress structured this way? Why committees? Well, think about it. Imagine there are 435 members of the House of Representatives. They're dealing with a bunch of different bills, right? Some having to do with agriculture, education, the armed services, veterans benefits, technology, communications, banking, all kinds of things. So one way to handle it would be for a bill to get proposed and all 435 members of the House to get together and debate and discuss the bill, work on it until they come to an agreement, and then pass that bill and then move on to the next one. Well, that would be really inefficient. And so the main reason, or one of the main reasons they have committees, is to divide up the labor. Because if the entire House is working on one bill having to do with agriculture, they can't be working on anything else. Well, there are a bunch of different committees, all having a different area of jurisdiction. Like I said, Veterans Affairs, National Defense, Technology, Transportation, Education. And so by dividing up the labor, what Congress can do, and in this case I'll focus on the Senate, but it's equally true for the House, you can have committees working on bills in different committees and they're making progress, right, all the time. And then when they're done, they bring things to the floor. So a lot can get done at the same time instead of one bill at a time getting done. On top of that, if somebody's like on the Agriculture Committee, right, and they're dealing with all of the bills that are being proposed that have to do with agriculture, what they start to do is they start to develop expertise in the area of agriculture. They learn about the policies related to agriculture. They get a better idea of policies, how it works, who's involved, what works, what doesn't work, right? And so they become experts. If the entire floor is dealing with a transportation bill, then an agricultural bill, then a technology bill, then a banking bill, they're going to know a little bit about a lot of things, but they aren't going to know a lot about anything. And so what working in committees does is it allows members to develop expertise, because what happens is when people get elected, when members of the House or Senate get elected, one of the first things they have to do is they have to tell their leadership which committees do they want to be on, right? Part of the other reason that committees are helpful is because members of Congress can improve their chances of being reelected by being on certain committees, right? Members of Congress are going to request to be on certain committees based on their constituents. So if I'm a representative for Nebraska, I'm going to want to be on the Agriculture Committee. Because especially if I represent the 3rd Congressional District in Nebraska, which is this huge area and all they do is grow corn, I want to be on that committee because I want to be able to help my farming constituents in a way that they're going to be like, hey, Phil's awesome. Let's vote for him next time. Do I want to be on a committee that deals with maritime issues like boats, sailing in the sea, ports and harbors? People in Nebraska think the ocean is a myth. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry if anybody's Nebraskan or has a relative. That doesn't do me any good because there are no oceans in Nebraska. right? I want to be on a committee that's going to be helpful for me so that I can help my constituents, because if I can help my constituents, I can get reelected. If I'm a representative in Central California, I want to be on the Agricultural Committee for the same reasons. But if I'm a representative from New York City, right, or Manhattan, I probably want to be on a committee that deals with financial issues because that's like the hub of the financial center for the United States. And so committees are helpful because they divide up the labor so that a lot can get done at the same time, so that members of Congress can develop some expertise in specific areas, and that they can also improve their chances of getting reelected by being able to do things for their constituents. So there you have it. That wasn't too bad, the committee structure in Congress. There's the general breakdown. Next, I want to move on to a bigger question about majoritarian and non-majoritarian institutions. And in the next set of videos, I'm going to be highlighting some of the similarities and some of the differences between the United States Senate and the House of Representatives.